Good morning, everyone. We're starting today our 21st Encontro de Férias SBS. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, this morning. I'm Barbara from SBS, and next we are going to have Bruno Albuquerque from Prestiso, Troika, and National Geographic Learning to open this amazing event for us. Before he starts, I want to tell you about the certificates. Uh, After this lecture ends, there will be a link for you guys to download your certificates. You have to click it, accept the use terms of the website, download the PDF file, open it on your web navigator, and click on the purple field where you're going to write your own name and save it. The link will be available for 7 days only, so it's important for you to download as soon as you can, all right? Thanks a lot for joining us, and please welcome Bruno.
Hi, thank you, Barbara. Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me, see the slides? I think this is probably the most spoken sentence of the year, right? Can you hear me? So, how's everyone doing? Is everything all right? Yes? Thank you so much for being here today. It's a privilege to be with such a huge group of teachers online on a Wednesday morning. Um, I'm Bruno from Troika, and today we're going to talk about failing. So I just wholeheartedly hope that this will not be a failure, but if it is, it's learning, and we'll see how to turn that experience into learning for future sessions. All right. Can you type where you're watching this from? I saw that some people have already done that. But I'd like to know where you're watching this from. So I got some like Pink Floyd song, yeah. So let's see, we got yes, we can hear you. That's great. So sounds working. So São Paulo, Taubaté, Igaraçu do Tietê. You're from Brazil, Michelle? That's great. I'm too. Ribeirão Preto, São Paulo, Santa Catarina. Ai, saudade de Santa Catarina, gente. It's been so long since I last been to a beach. Last time I was at the beach, I was wearing a shirt, pants, and shoes. Not, yeah, Recife. Oh my, it's been 12 years or so. All right, so shall we start? Patos de Minas, Rosie. I'm in Patos de Minas today. Huh? Would you look at that? The coincidence. So today we're going to talk about failure and how we can turn that into our favor. Before we start, though, I'd like to carry out a very short warm up with you people. I'd like you to choose one of these sentence stems and complete them in the comments. Can you do that? Yes, Rosie. I mean, Pat. So choose one of these sentence stems and complete them in the chat, please. Just so that I know what to expect from. Hi, Madeline. Good morning. Just so that I know what you're expecting from this session. It is about communication. I think this talk is about not trying to be a perfectionist, but learning from mistakes. Definitely, Henry. This is it. I'm here because the cat woke me up. That's a great reason to get out of bed and go to a training session. I'm here because I love learning and I'm a big Troika fan. Yeah, I'm a huge Troika fan too. This topic caught my attention because you quoted Samuel Beckett. Yeah, that's the name of the talk, right? I expect to learn how to extract the best from failure. I'm here because I want to give better classes to my students. I think this is probably in the heart of everything that we do as professional development, right? We take whichever talk so that we can be our best selves to our students, right? I'm here because I'm interested in learning from my mistakes. I expect to learn how to get the best from bad experiences. Um, Jose Antunes, I believe that failure, not perhaps not failure, but we'll see how that connects. But I think failure is a paramount element of learning and development. Um, you're here because of me, Henry. Oh, that's sweet. About difficulties, Miracatu in São Paulo, and I'm here because I expect to learn how to deal with this, with mistakes. Right? Thank you for your contributions. Shall we start? Can we all agree, once and for all, that teachers are not born? Can we? Because I believe that if we say that teachers are born, that what we're doing is sort of pointless, right? Because if you're a born teacher, you wouldn't need development. You were born a teacher. So I believe, and this is my personal perspective, I believe that talents and gifts and being born something or with a specific skill is not a thing. I believe that everything that we do is result of experience, of reflection, of practice, of trying new things, of study, of training, of what have you, but definitely not something that you're born with. So if teachers are not born, they're made. And in my opinion, teachers are not only made, but they are self-made. In the idea that yes, uh, you can go to training sessions, you can go to webinars, you can take courses. So all of this that we call training is something that is done to you, right? Something that you receive, but not necessarily will this training affect you, and not necessarily will this training affect all the people in the room the same way. So when I talk about teachers being self-made, is because I believe that apart from training, development is a process that we ourselves have to work on. It's something that we have to walk the path so that we develop. So this session, for example, will not have the same impact in every single one of you. Maybe it will not have any kind of impact in someone, which is highly unfortunate. So at least have a cup of coffee with you so you can have a coffee with me. So you get something out of this. But I think it's very important that we see training and professional development as different things, as separate things. Training is something that is done to you, and development is what you take away from that training session. Que atire a primeira pedra o professor que nunca foi numa sessão de treinamento, num curso, e não trouxe nada dali. It happens, right? Sometimes it's because the training did not, you know, got in sync with you. It didn't ring any bells. You didn't connect to it. It wasn't useful. You were not at that, let's say, like level of development. But it happens, right? So I brought to you two of my favorite thinkers and philosophers now. First one is Cortella, huge fan. I have a picture like hugging Cortella. He was deep in the flu. He gave this talk in Brasilia. It was a 1 hour talk, and there was a 1 hour and 30 minute line to talk to the man and take a picture and get an autograph. I have an autograph. So this is from one of his books called, what is it again? Por que fazemos o que fazemos? And he says that quando eu faço algo, eu me reconheço. Isso é, conheço a mim mesmo de novo. Só sei o que sou quando me vejo fora de mim. E eu me vejo fora quando tenho minha obra feita. Então me realizo. So it's the idea that you will, by doing what we do, by being teachers, by being teachers and doing our work, it's how we become real. This in me realizo is to become real. How deep is that? So if I can only get to know myself by doing what I do, my work to the world is immensely important, because it's not only important to the people that will receive this, that will participate in these learning experiences, but it's also part of you. So, and then he completes with, sou o que faço. Se sou o que faço e não penso de mim, aquilo que eu faço tem uma necessidade. So, what we do is very important for our students, for society. We know that we're teachers, we chose this profession, but it's also very important for us. I find it very interesting when people say that, eu consigo separar o meu trabalho e a minha vida facilmente. São duas coisas separadas. How can you do that? I mean, not to get cliche, but Kant says, to do is to be. So I am what I do. So if people ask me, what do you do? What do you do for a living? We don't answer, I work as a teacher. We say, I'm a teacher, right? So it's a quality of being. I teach other parents' kids in the street when they're, not crossing the street properly. Yes, Renata, we feel like a teacher 24/7, right? My brother asked me to teach him how to drive, and I'm like, I am not qualified for this. But still, I sort of helped the kid get behind the steering wheel. And then the other, this is Jeremy Harmer, 2020, and you're not going to find this quote anywhere else, because get the privilege. This is something that Jeremy Harmer said to me in São Paulo at a bar drinking margaritas. How cool is that, huh? So you're not going to find that in any of his books from 2020. So Harmer says that experience alone doesn't bring about development. The thing, and this is the beautiful part in my opinion, the thing I have the most experience with is brushing my teeth, and I haven't developed much. So in a way, it's a rephrasing of that age-old sentence that has become a teaching cliche already, from Penn. Do you have 20 years of experience, or do you have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times? Right? Because it's not doing the thing over and over and over that will bring about development. It's reflection on this experience that breeds growth. It's what you do about the experiences you have, be them good or bad, positive or negative, that will help you develop. So with this in mind, I'm going to share with you today 3 personal stories that definitely driving your car will not make you a Formula One racer, right? You can drive your car for 20, 30, 40 years and you will not become a Formula One racer. Definitely. So today I planned on talking about 3 subpar experiences I've had in the classroom and in the training room, together with 2 two pieces of knowledge or two things that I learned from these negative experiences. So we're going to talk about three not so good experiences and six things I learned from them. And I hope this can contribute to your professional development. All right, shall we go? So, first one, I was invited for a talk by National Geographic Learning in a school in Belo Horizonte. Um, they were uh, they were going to adopt this new material from NatGeo, and my job was to present the material to them, talking about the features, the resources, and how and what the methodology and what the pedagogical principles behind the authoring of the book affected the material, right? So there was a lot of practice and a lot of theory. How did I go about it? So I started the talk. I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" Tried to engage the audience. Tried talking to them, and so that there was the whole school staff present. So supervisors, coordinators, teachers, trainees, everybody was there. Huge group. There were about like 30 to 35 people. Very scary. Um, and then I talked about all the principles, all the theory behind the book first. And I was trying to engage the audience with questions, asking them, so what do you think about scaffolding? What do you think about activating schemata? Can you define activating schemata? Can you define scaffolding? Do you know what zone of proximal development is? And I expected an audience like this one that you see, like lots of people happy, smiling, wanting to participate. But guess what? This is the response I got from the crowd. And I was, oh well, tough crowd. Right? They didn't answer. They didn't talk to me. Right? So they didn't want to talk. Yeah. So tough crowd. People didn't want to watch. But there was a friend of mine at my home. It was a webinar. Natalia Guerreiro was in my place. She was doing some work or studying, and she was like listening to me giving this training session. And she she said, "Well, Bruno," and she said in this very soft, very kind way, very helpful, and in good Portuguese, she said, "Mas a culpa foi tua, né?" And I was, wow. So before we move on, I'd like you to try and justify why she said it was my fault. Any ideas? Hmm. I didn't prepare myself for an audience. I expected too much. Threatening, right, Renata? um, I think this was it. I think we can connect to what Renata said. I began the talk to the whole staff, the whole pedagogical staff of the school. So there were supervisors, coordinators, teachers, and trainees. I began this talk with, yes, Vanya, they felt uncomfortable because I began the talk with theory, with principles, and asking them um, questions only connected to theory. So talking, and this was, in my opinion, this was my mistake. Practice always comes first. Yes, Isabella. Too much technical words. So practice first, and then we go to theory. This is pretty much what we do with our students, right? We begin the class with uh, a lead in with this intriguing question to get them interested in the topic. And then we get down to practice. So let's talk, let's share. And then after we talk, we'll analyze what we talked about. And then we'll get the theory going. So the first lesson, and thank you, Nachi, for this, is always begin with practice. Practice comes first. Talk about what you do, how it works in class, what doesn't work in class, and then introduce the theory to support these ideas, this practice. Because every good theory is inherently practical. So if the theory is good, there is a practical application of this, right? So what happened was that teachers were caught off guard, and it was the effective filter in this situation was very, very high, because there were supervisors, coordinators, teachers, and trainees all together, and I was asking questions about theory on a practice we hadn't analyzed before. So quite hard, right? So if you open your microphone and talk and share an answer and it's the wrong answer, well, maybe everyone in the group will be like, right? So we start chit chatting, we start engaging, we get students. So we put the practice and then we carry on with the theory. Yeah, definitely. We're going to do practice and theory together, like we say in the same class, but doing them, like at the same time. I don't know how that will happen. Yeah, they wouldn't dare. Yes, Anna, they wouldn't dare. They were afraid of making mistakes, right? And the second learning piece of knowledge I got from this is that it's usually in your hands. Not always, but usually. So the moment I turned off the camera, my reaction was tough crowd. So I was putting the responsibility of not participating, of not engaging in the crowd, in the audience, in the teachers that were watching, because that's very easy, right? Let's face it. Yeah. So I delivered a training session that was not the best, and then I not sorta, I entirely put the responsibility of this subpar experience outside of me. So it's their problem, right? So what I mean by this is that uh, before putting the not guilt, because I don't think anyone's guilty, but before pointing fingers and saying that, oh, it's a tough crowd, it's a difficult student, it's a difficult class, try analyzing what you did, because it's usually in your hands. Not always, but it's usually in your hands, right? So a tutor of mine, a mentor of mine, once said that, for example, to it's better to act proactively toward with indiscipline rather than fixing indiscipline. So, what is it that you will do to avoid this situation? right? It's much more on what you're going to do than rather on how they're going to receive it, right? So practice first, theory later. It's usually in your hands, not always, but usually. Second story. This was an activity I planned. This is me at Casa Thomas Jefferson, my former school, uh, showing teachers this activity. Here's how it works. You give students, you give kids pieces of paper, right? We were talking about traveling, and we were actually talking about traveling, and the target language was WH questions, right? So how does the activity work? You get the piece of paper, you fold it once. So you're going to fold into a paper plane, right? So you fold it once and you write on both sides of the paper, say where you're going to travel next vacation. You fold the next step and you write who you're going with. You fold it again and you write, say, how much money you're taking. You fold it again, you write how long you're staying. And then every step of the plain origami, let's say, you add a piece of information about your trip, right? And then you scatter students around, you get them in a big circle. Students throw the planes for 15 seconds, grab the plane, throw the plane, grab the plane, throw the plane. And then after 15 seconds, they get a piece of paper and they have to find who the owner of that paper plane, right? So beautiful, right? So you get information, you get lots of kinesthetics. The planes flying in class, it's amazingly beautiful. It's a lot of fun. It's very engaging. Kids love it. Um, and but before we got to the fun part, some students were having problems folding the plane. So I sort of had to help all of these students to fold the planes. So it took a long time to prepare the planes, but once the planes were ready, uh, everything worked fine. Uh, we started the activity. Everybody had their planes. They threw the planes. They got the plane. Now talk to your friend. Use WH questions. So they had the information. They had to ask questions to get that information and find the owner of the plane. But what did they do? Students started shouting the country or the place where they found in the plane. So kids got the plane, they saw the destination, and they started shouting, Argentina! É meu aqui! And then they would give the plane, Brasilia! And then, oh, é meu aqui. Chile! And then they just meu aqui. And they broke my activity. It was beautiful. It was great and fun. But the language practice that I was expecting didn't actually work, because students were just shouting the information they had on their planes. So, né, Lucio? I know. So, what do you think are the two? It has, right, Gisele? Beautiful activity, something to be proud of and share with your peers. Then this happens, right? Amazing. So the pieces of knowledge from this experience were, look at the task from the user's perspective. So what is the student supposed to do in this activity? If you were the student, how would you tackle this activity? Because it is very hard to control the outcome, Marcella, definitely. So it is not, I wouldn't say impossible to predict students' reaction. I agree it's hard, but let's face it, if you looked at this activity from a student's perspective, maybe you could have expected that. Maybe, right? So perhaps give better instructions or change the task a bit. And the second piece of knowledge was believe in the power of peers. Um, when I finished helping uh, 4 or 5 of the kids that could not make the paper plane, and I was showing the steps. So it's not that I told them go make a paper plane. No, I was I was doing step by step the paper planes, right? But some students they didn't have the fine motor skills to do it. Yeah, happens. After I helped 4, 5, 6 students, uh, one of them looked at me and said, "Teacher, eu sei fazer. I can help." And then it hit me that I didn't have to fold the planes. I could have just asked other students to help their peers. But as I'm the teacher, I'm the one in front of the classroom, I felt that I was the one responsible to help the students. So the second piece of knowledge would be believe in the power of peers. If you need help in class to do something, this is Vygotskian at heart. Uh, the zone of proximal development, it's not with the help of a teacher, it's with the help of a better abled person, right? A better abled peer. So maybe, yes, Thiago, maybe asking the students what the goal of the activity is. Maybe that would have helped them not shout the information on the plane and actually do the task I wanted them to, right? Definitely. And the last, you don't have to do everything. Definitely. Yes, Angie, we believe that we're the sole responsible for everything, right? But no, not really. It does seem to, it helps increase confidence and this feeling that we're a group and we can rely on each other, not only on the teacher, right? Definitely important. Very useful too. And this is where I believe that I failed. It's I believe in peer work, in pair work, in group work, right? So why didn't I just got students in pairs to fold the plane, right? Or in small groups, so that the small groups would hear the instructions and then help each other to make the plane, right? So this third experience, was during my Celta course. It was one of my last lessons to teach. I was being watched by my friend and mentor, Vini. And the idea was that I would create a speaking class to get students to become better able to tell stories using the hero's journey. Are you familiar with the hero's journey? The hero's journey is a theory that by Joseph Campbell that says that all heroes they are the same seen from different perspectives and that they all follow the same cycle, the same route, the same journey throughout their stories. So for example, heroes they start at status quo, something that is not a situation that is not nice, and then they get a call to adventure, and then someone helps them, gives them assistance, and then there is departure. They leave the regular world to the fantasy world, like Harry Potter gets on a train to Hogwarts, or Katniss Everdeen gets on a train to the capital, or Frodo goes on a journey to Mordor, is it? Right? So after the journey, there is the trials and difficulties, crisis. The hero maybe dies, and he's reborn. He fights the bigger evil. He conquers a reward, power, recognition, and then he goes back to this to his home again, and then the cycle repeats, right? So some stories you have like many cycles. Some stories that have only one big cycle, right? Star Wars, pretty much all hero movies, I think. Yeah. So my idea was to bring this video to class as input and use the cycle to help students scaffold and systematize this story. So they would have to think of a hero story and think of all the steps in the story to tell the story to a friend, right? So I thought that would be beautiful. So play the video, show the circle, ask students to take notes of the story. And then one of the students said, teacher, can we do this task in pairs? Because I asked them to do it individually. I asked them to prepare the story individually. And a student asked, teacher, can we do this in pairs? And I said, no, mostly because this is my lesson, it's on the lesson plan, e o Vini tá sentado ali, tomando nota, quase que psicografando em cima do meu lesson plan. Right? So, no. I planned it for individual work, it's going to be individual work. Right? So, what happened? Students prepared their stories. It took them ages to prepare the story. And then when I got them in pairs to tell the story, to share the story, what happened? Students were reading. Students were reading the paragraph. So they wrote like a paragraph, a short paragraph. They got in their hands and they were reading. So my beautiful speaking class, well scaffolded, well prepared, was transformed into a reading class. So, two pieces of knowledge from this experience. And after I finished the class, I'm sorry. After I finished the class, that there is the feedback session, right, with the tutor. And Vinny asked me, why didn't you do the activity in pairs? I said, well, because I didn't want to. I said, but it was a fantastic idea. Doing the activity in pairs was a great idea. So, and then the first piece of knowledge here is actively listening to students. So, yes, we also tend, yes, Vanessa, that's the whole point. Gente, Vanessa summarized everything I wanted to say about this point. We also tend to underestimate the feeling students have of their own learning process. This is it. So when the student was asking to do the activity in pairs, my thoughts were, she doesn't want to follow my lesson plan. She wants to rule the class. How dare this teenager want to tell me how to teach, right? But what I should actually have done is in that split second was think, why is this student asking me to do this activity in pairs? Right? So why is this student asking to do this with the support of a peer? Right? Maybe she's not comfortable with the activity. Maybe she doesn't feel prepared for the activity. Maybe she wants, maybe she really likes her friend and she wants to do it together. With lower affective filters, students will feel better in class. They will learn better. Maybe the student has foreseen that preparing the story the way I told them to prepare would take a lot of work and a lot of time. So this student was asking to do it in pairs to save time and do it faster. Actively listen to students. And second piece of knowledge is be clear be clear and check your instructions. So when I told, yes, Madeline, we have to be flexible. We must be flexible and allow for changes, definitely. So another piece of learning from this experience was being clear with instructions and checking the instructions. right? So when I told students to prepare stories, I didn't actually tell them how to do so. I asked them to prepare the story. If I ask students to prepare as bullet points or add one word to each element of the cycle, maybe this would be enough instructions to avoid students writing paragraphs and transforming my class into a reading class, right? So after these six pieces of these three stories and these six pieces of learning that I got from this, and I hope that you profit from it too. I found this at a course that I was taking in on brain science. It's Kolb's learning cycle. Can you give me a second? Let me just close my window because it's noisy. Hi, perks of online teaching, right? So the idea of Kolb's cycle is a framework that helps that shows how the brain learns best, and I believe this can be used for teaching, for classrooms, and to analyze what you're doing as well, and to reflecting on what you're doing. So Cope cycle starts with a concrete experience. So you have this negative or subpar experience or positive experience doing something or doing a task or doing activity. And then you have reflective observation. So what happened? Why did this happen? How did it work? Third step, you have this abstract conceptualization. So when you go towards the idea of, okay, so this happened, I did this activity with the planes. Students started shouting, and then I observed students started shouting the information on the planes. What happened? So students were actually going for task achievement alone, which was giving them yes, Shagu, Windows. So students went straight for the goal, the achievement goal of the task, which was returning the planes to their owners, right? So how could I have better prepared students or given the instructions better so that this wouldn't have happened? And then there's active experimentation. So you're going to add the elements of your analysis, of your reflection, and change what you did and tweak it so that when you go back to concrete experience, something will change, something will be different, right? Because repeating the same actions and expecting different results is by definition madness, right? So you have to change something so that you try it again. Yeah. And when we go back to the whole idea of trying again, failing again, and failing better, is that we don't abandon failed activities or failed experiences, but we use them. We go through this cycle of having the experience, observing it, thinking about it, and then trying something different, trying out something different, so that the next experience will be better, or at least you'll be failing better, right? So back to Mr. Harmer, he says experience alone doesn't bring about development. It is reflection on this experience that breeds growth. So just so we can wrap this up, do you remember the six uh, bits of learning that we talked about today? Can we try and recycle them? I'll give you a minute or two on the chat so you can try and revisit these. So, first one, it's usually in your hands, not always, but usually. What else did we talk about? I'm sorry, Henry, you're hungry. Mm. So, can we wrap this up? It's usually in your hands, not always, but usually. So, before passing on the responsibility for consequences, think of them of yourself and how you could have avoided them. Practice should come first. This is my opinion. Practice comes first and then theory. Look at the task from the learner's perspective, from the user's perspective. Believe in the power of peers. We already do. We work in pairs, we work in groups, we work in trios, we get students to help each other. But still, sometimes we still take too much of classroom management to us. Pass it on a bit. Get the student to be the protagonist of his learning experience. Actively listen to students and be clear and check your instructions. Right. So this is the core of what I wanted to show you today. Perhaps the activity, the plain activity, is something fun that you can try out once we go back to face-to-face teaching, right? But the idea was not in any way showing you, presenting you activities. I know that you teachers have a myriad of activities under your sleeve, but it's much more on the learning that happened through this failed attempts. So back to Mr. Beckett, he says, try again, and fail better. However, I disagree, and I'd like to make a very small change in Beckett's quote. I hope he doesn't mind, but I believe that as we saw the Kolb's circle of learning, it is a circle. So my change here would be that try again, fail better. Full stop is not full stop. It should be at max a pause to breathe, to analyze what you did, to bring the concepts together, to come up with a new solution for that problem, and trying again. Because doing what we do is what helps us see ourselves outside, is what allows us to nos reconhecer e perceber nossa influência, perceber quem somos fora de nós, porque somos o que fazemos e o que fazemos é muito sensacional. Educar é muito sensacional. So, let's go for it. We'll try again, we'll fail again, and we'll fail much better next time. Thank you for being here. And that's it.
Thanks a lot, Bruno, for joining us today. It was amazing. Thanks a lot, everybody that joined us. Regarding the certificates, there will be a link on this video description. Below. You can click it and download your own certificates. There will be a certificate for every lecture. All right. So we're going to present the next lecture will be with André Hedlund from Edify, right now at 10 a.m. here in Brazil, 8 a.m. in Peru. And the André's lecture will also be held in English. Okay, everybody? So the link is already available on this video description, so you can download your certificate. And I'll wait for you on our next lecture. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. See ya.
Ai, o Bruno já saiu.